As you move throughout the city, we're trying to find the 4 spies. Trails of perfume will lead you towards them. 1 immediately after you get the perfume, and the other 3 are spread between these 3 areas on the map. City of Threads is the max level dungeon in Azkatet in World of Warcraft The War Within. This is a 4 boss dungeon where we deal with several of the minions of the Spider Queen herself, reducing the power she has over the city. Entering into this dungeon, there's a bunch of neutral spiders all over the place that you do not need to kill. We only have to take out the aggressive guys in here, and every neutral guy you take out is unnecessary. Pull this first pack, go around the corner, and pull the second pack as well. Burn these things all down, dealing with as many web bolt interrupts as you can. They're not too dangerous. From there, we can grab the Royal Swarm Guard and his little swarm and burn them down. Watch out for the massive slams these nerubians do in front of them. The next room has several patrols, and you're going to be waiting for that first patrol to go past, so there's no reason to pull this guy up there. Once the patrol goes past, we're going to go up and grab the Herald of Ansurek and her Silk Binders. Interrupt the Silk Binders as often as possible. These Heralds are going to spawn void zones all over the ground that you need to just step out of. This will slowly lose you room, but the place is massive, so you don't really have to worry about it. Pull the next 2 packs, the Herald, Swarm Guard, and all of the little swarms, and pull them all together, AoEing them all down, dodging the slams, and moving out of the void zone. Keep the Herald interrupted from any spells it tries to cast. From there, we get to the first boss, Orator Krixvisk. The main effect of this boss is he puts a purple circle around him. If you're ever not within the circle, he's going to pull you into it. You just have to stay within his extents. He'll hit the tank with Subjugate, doing quite a bit of damage and slowing their movement speed. He'll pick a random player and cast a purple cone towards them. Players hit take quite a bit of damage and cower in fear. Vociferous Indoctrination is going to be a channeled AoE effect that does damage to the entire group. At the end of it, it's going to leave a lingering influence on the ground, which will slowly pull out. As the group, you're going to need to coordinated move in one single direction out of this so nobody gets pulled into it as you try to escape. Boss fight is just constantly moving out of this effect as you move up and down this large area that we have to work with. I would say this is an area management fight, except for the fact that there's just so much area to work with. You should never run out of space as long as you pulled enough of the mobs around. With him down, we now have to go and find the spies within the city. Head your way across the bridge and fight the perfumer there. Once he gets low health, he'll move off to the side and agree to help, throwing perfumes on any players that move into his general area. This will disguise you from most of the mobs in the future zone. As you move throughout the city, we're trying to find the 4 spies. Trails of perfume will lead you towards them. Moving close to a spy will give you an extra action button that you can press to reveal their location. Or you can just attack them. There doesn't seem to be a real reason to do the extra action button part. These guys have a couple of annoying effects where they'll disappear and can't be targeted for a short duration, and then appear again and do some damage, but for the most part, they're not particularly dangerous. As you move throughout this area, several packs are going to have a seeing eye above them and a faint blue circle around them. If you ever enter into one of these, they will focus in on you, stun you, and then teleport you back to the start of this area. You need to move throughout this zone, finding all of the perfume spies while staying out of the range of these guards. Any unnecessary mobs you pull during this, usually just run away and teleport. There are 4 hidden guards, 1 immediately after you get the perfume, and the other 3 are spread between these 3 areas on the map. Just move to one of those areas and you'll begin finding the perfume trail, work your way along them, and take out the mob. You'll get used to figuring out where each of the mobs can potentially spawn, and figuring out which perfume trail you're following pretty quickly. But we're not going to go over every possible configuration here. Once you've revealed all of the spies, you have to go and find the Vizier in the town. He'll be located on the western side, so you're going to want to do that spy last. Following the Vizier through the city, he'll eventually lead you to this large platform, at which point the next boss is going to ambush you. Nyx and Vix will appear, stun the Vizier, and begin combat. This is a 2-stage boss fight with 2 different themed enemies. One, a shadowy assailant, and the other, a frosty mage. These 2 mobs share all damage taken, so stacking them up and cleaving them down is the ideal strategy to killing these guys. One of them is going to start out empowered, and all their abilities are going to be more powerful. The other one will be a minor enemy and will do 1 distracting ability. To start the fight, Nyx is the priority. He'll occasionally start a purple channel in front of him and lash out in that direction, dealing massive damage to everybody in a big line. Upon finishing that, he'll put an echoing shade of himself at that location. Each time he casts his ability, each of the echoing shades will pick a random direction and cast the exact same effect. Eventually, he starts channeling Duskbringer, which deals AoE damage to the entire party, and then does even bigger damage to anybody within 15 yards of him or one of his shades. Once this begins channeling, you have to make sure everybody is out of those zones. Upon reaching 100 energy, both Nyx and Vix will repeatedly dash across the area, dealing damage to anybody in their path. You need to be constantly sidestepping out of these dash lines. Throughout this phase, Vix is going to be throwing knives at random players, dealing a little bit of damage to them, and putting a dot on them. She'll occasionally cast icicles, which is going to pick random players and shoot out icy blasts towards them. Players' hit gets slowed dramatically, and this effect needs to be dispelled. After the 100 energy phase finishes, they're going to run together, channel into each other, and then Vix will become empowered and Nyx will become weaker. In this phase, Nyx will be throwing out those annoying daggers and occasionally doing a desk breaker, which just requires you to stay away from him wherever he teleports to. You just need to move out of the circle. Throughout this phase, she's going to hit the tank with a big attack of Rhyme Daggers. This is going to put 10 stacks of freezing blood onto the target. To remove a stack, the tank needs to stand beside another player. If they ever get to 16 stacks, Frozen Solid will affect them and they'll become a block of ice for 30 seconds, taking massive damage over that duration. Throughout this phase, all players should be hanging out as close to the tank as they can be to constantly be removing the stacks from them and stop them from ever getting frozen. They'll keep bouncing back and forth between these two modes until you take them down. Make your way up the ramp behind them, grabbing this pack and moving around the corner to grab the next one. Burn all these guys down in a single pack, interrupting and stunning as much as you can. Make your way up the stairs, grab the small swarm and the mini boss at the top. This is a standard big nerubian mini boss. Watch out for his big slams. He'll also do a channel that's going to shoot out globs of green that you have to constantly move out of. Once he's down, you're making your way into the main temple itself. Around the outside, there's going to be these webbed cocoons, and if you touch one of them, they'll spawn a mob that you'll have to kill that you really don't need to. So make sure you stay to the center of the area. Several of the mobs in this zone will do knockbacks, so you kind of want to make sure your back is set towards areas where you're not going to get knocked into cocoons. The big monstrosities in the area are going to set out big purple swirls that you're going to want to avoid, and they'll do a big AoE slam for several seconds. You want to make sure everybody moves out of these to avoid taking too much damage. Interrupt and stun as many of the mobs as you can, and deal with the channeled blue circle. If this goes off, it'll knock all players back and almost certainly spawn you some mobs. About halfway down the platform, you can turn left and go down into the viewing area. A bunch of black blood will be spawned throughout the room. Pick it all up and burn it down to summon the next boss, the Coagulation. This is a big Bloodman boss that's relatively easy to deal with. He'll slam the tank for an attack that reduces all healing taken from the tank. So you need to be ready for that and be at full health so that you can last for 10 seconds before the healer is able to get you topped off. He's going to slam the ground with Vicious Darkness, knocking everybody back and then summoning some black blood circles that are going to float towards him. These are each going to heal him for 5% if they touch him. And if a player touches them, it gives them a big healing absorption debuff. Each player should try and touch as few of these as they can while making sure all of them get picked up. Spread them out pretty evenly so that your healer can keep everybody topped off. At 100 energy, he's going to begin Dark Pulse. He'll begin blasting out damage and putting purple swirls throughout the room. You need to constantly sidestep around these purple swirls, avoiding taking the damage. This will put globs of black blood on the ground that you also can't stand in. You're going to run out of room rather quickly. After delay, all the pools go away, and it starts all over again. Rotate through these effects and burn this guy down. Head back up the way that you came for easy clearing, continuing down the path further from where you went, and make your way to the final boss. We're going to have a little mini boss first, where she shows you off her upcoming powers. She's going to empower one of these mobs as an Elder, and one of these mobs as a War Shell. The Elder does some interruptible abilities like Web Bolt, and he's also going to channel out Umbral Weave onto enemies. That's going to root everybody, and you have to kill the webs that are holding everybody down so they can keep moving. The War Shell is going to do a slam attack that puts brown swirls throughout the room. Each of these brown swirls will summon a little ad that you have to burn down. Once both those are dead, the boss is going to come down, and you're going to be dealing with her final phase. You'll summon these 3 purple orbs that you're going to want to move away from. If you touch these, you get knocked back and take a decent amount of damage. She's occasionally going to cast Splice, which is going to put a dot on all players that'll burn down and healers need to deal with. She'll occasionally mark a target, and all the orbs are going to cast Blast at the target and move towards them. That player needs to move away from the group and kite these things along as they try to chase them down. Periodically, she'll transform into one of those hulking Nerubians and do a Tremor Slam. A big brown circle will appear around her that you have to get out of. She'll slam the ground, creating a bunch of brown circles, and those will summon those Ravenous Scarabs. You need to pick these things up, stun them, and kill them. You'll also transform into an Elder and cast that Umbral Weave, rooting all players and can cause you to need to kill the webs holding everybody down. If you don't unroot players, several of the other effects in this boss are quickly going to kill them. Process of elimination is going to cause her to pull all of her orbs back towards herself and then focus them at the tank. she'll shoot all of the different orbs at the tank, blasting the tank for quite a bit of damage and knocking anybody back within the area. The tank needs to move away and constantly walk to the side as these things get blasted out. Then rotate back through all of her abilities and burn this boss down. With that, you've taken down Izo, the Grand Splicer, and finished off the City of Threats. I hope this guide helped you out. I'm Zesty Fresh with Zaza Games, and we'll catch you guys next time.